Continental soldier, an ordinary guy, woke up one day and found he was the original GI. The Continental Soldier had never fought before, but there was Yankee Doodle in the middle of a war.
Not enough food to feed him, not enough clothes to wear, not enough funds to pay him, not enough men who care, but enough love of freedom and enough deathless deeds and enough of the stuff that a nation needs.
The Continental Soldier, each one a volunteer, enlisted in the Continental Army for a year. The Continental Soldier did not put down his gun. He went and re-enlisted till he saw the job was done. The Continental Soldier, the Continental Soldier, the Continental Soldier, the Continental Soldier.
Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, Timothy Murphy was his name. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, in the Continental Army he won his fame.
Did you ever hear of Timothy Murphy, a real-life son of a gun? He was born in New Jersey in 1751. He got his reputation from the rifle in his hand, a double-barreled rifle, the first one in the land. Enlisted in the army when the war was only begun, and stayed there a-fightin' until the war was won. With Washington at Valley Forge, he crossed the Delaware. When they needed a troubleshooter, Tim Murphy was there.
Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, Timothy Murphy was his name. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, in the Continental Army he won his fame.
In the valley of Schoharie was a rough and rugged frontier, where the constant threat of danger made everyone live in fear. The Tories and the hostile Indians swept the countryside, outnumbering and destroying the settlers far and wide. The army sent Tim Murphy to fight this wilderness war. He got there and started to even up the score. His double-barreled rifle helped them tidy up the place. When the war was finally over, he made it home base.
Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, Timothy Murphy was his name. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, in the Continental Army he won his fame.
At the Battle of Saratoga, Tim Murphy had his big day. With a shot from his rifle, he drove defeat away. The British were preparing to attack our men in force when Murphy got his orders.
Get that man on the horse.
That man was General Fraser, a man who couldn't be beat. If he led his army, we'd surely face defeat. So up a tree Tim climbed, and there he took a careful aim. He fired a shot that won us a war and him fame.
Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, Timothy Murphy was his name. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, in the Continental Army he won his fame. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, Timothy Murphy was his name. Bang, bang, the double-barrel rifleman, in the Continental Army he won his fame. £300 of basso profundo was Henry Knox. A heavy, hardy, light-hearted party was Henry Knox. Enthusiasm always in high, the kind of man who'd never say die. Robust, rotund, congenial giant was Henry Knox.
Henry Knox at the age of 12 was forced to go to work. To support his mother, he got a job in a bookstore as a clerk. And while he worked, he also read a lot of books and filled his head till he was an authority on guns and artillery. At 21, he opened up a bookstore of his own. At 25, enlisted to oppose the British throne. Big promotions came rapidly. In 5 months he had a colonelcy, and he was put in charge of artillery small and large.
300 pounds of basso profundo was Henry Knox. A heavy, hardy, light-hearted party was Henry Knox. Enthusiasm always in high, the kind of man who'd never say die. Robust, rotund, congenial giant was Henry Knox.
At the start of the war, the British force held Boston town, and the home team didn't have half enough heavy guns to wear them down. So Henry Knox and his men were sent. Ticonderoga is where they went to see if the fort could spare the captured cannon there. 300 miles of snow and thaw across the wild terrain, but Henry Knox successfully delivered that noble train. Then up to Dorchester Heights they hauled the cannon, and when they were all installed and started to explode, the British hit the road.
300 pounds of basso profundo was Henry Knox. A heavy, hardy, light-hearted party was Henry Knox. Enthusiasm always in high, the kind of man who'd never say die. Robust, rotund, congenial giant was Henry Knox.
Henry Knox was with Washington when the Delaware was crossed. Said the general to the colonel, shift your weight or all is lost. When Henry Knox thought there should be a special kind of academy to teach the gunner's art, West Point got its start. At Washington's farewell when he relinquished his command, Henry Knox was the first man he approached to clasp his hand. Full of energy, full of drive, in 1785, Congress picked him for Secretary of War.
300 pounds of basso profundo was Henry Knox. A heavy, hardy, light-hearted party was Henry Knox. Enthusiasm always in high, the kind of man who'd never say die. Robust, rotund, congenial giant was Henry Knox.
Henry Knox.
Deborah Sampson, as a man she volunteered, as a man she persevered, did everything but grow a beard to join the Continental Army, the Continental Army.
Let me tell you about the only woman who enlisted as a man. Her name was Deborah Sampson, a unique American. As a child, she had an unhappy life. Her father was lost at sea, and because they were penniless, her mother was forced to break up the family. But Deborah taught herself reading and writing. The girl was no one's fool, and by the time she was 20, she was teaching school.
Deborah Sampson, Deborah Sampson, as a man she volunteered, as a man she persevered, did everything but grow a beard to join the Continental Army.
time she joined, the army discovered her and sent her home to stay. But Deborah was determined, so she tried another way. In a uniform she'd made secretly, she hiked to another town, changed her first name to Bob, and in this disguise she signed up to fight the crown. The fact that her face never needed shaving, the men blamed on her youth. Can you imagine those soldiers if they had known the truth?
Deborah Sampson, Deborah Sampson, as a man she volunteered, as a man she persevered, did everything but grow a beard to join the Continental Army, the Continental Army.
For a year and a half, no one suspected her, though she'd been wounded twice, till a doctor tending her fever learned her secret in a trice. So goodbye to fighting, goodbye to war, goodbye to the army life. Sweet romance came to Deborah the following spring and made her a happy wife. The Congress decreed a pension for veterans should be awarded her, and her husband was granted a pension, the first to a widower.
Deborah Sampson, Deborah Sampson, as a man she volunteered, as a man she persevered, did everything but grow a beard to join the Continental Army, the Continental Army.
The eyes and the ears of the newborn nation, Allan McLane, was always collecting information, Allan McLane.
Now he's here, now he's there.
Allan McLane was everywhere, using a horse for transportation, Allan McLane.
When the revolution started, there was no cavalry. They had no scouts for the whereabouts of the red-coat enemy. So without a word to warn them, no one to put them wise, the officers were regularly taken by surprise. Not till half the nation was in enemy hands did the army start to send out reconnoitering bands, led by a bright young captain who became the British bane. Alas, his name is clean forgotten, Allan McLane.
The eyes and the ears of the newborn nation, Allan McLane, was always collecting information, Allan McLane.
Now he's here, now he's there.
Allan McLane was everywhere, using a horse for transportation, Allan McLane.
When the army sought enlistments, he got 94 alone. Their bounty he paid personally with money of his own. When there was no wool for clothing and uniforms were few, his wife ran up some breeches from a tablecloth or two. When the Army's food supply was practically nil, he considered it a challenge to his foraging skill. He got 500 cattle and 1,500 hogs, 200 head of horses, and a few trailing dogs.
The eyes and the ears of the newborn nation, Allan McLane, was always collecting information, Allan McLane.
Now he's here, now he's there.
Allan McLane was everywhere, using a horse for transportation, Allan McLane.
Though the British captured Philly, he knew their every plan. His loyal spies, like 1,000 eyes, reported what they'd scan. When the army sought the layout of an irksome redcoat fort, he'd get inside and look around and hand in his report. If the fleet of France would blockade Chesapeake Bay, hopes were high that we would see a victory day. He took a ship and sought out the admiral of their fleet, who said, "Oui, oui," to Yorktown and Cornwallis's defeat.
The eyes and the ears of the newborn nation, Allan McLane. Just like a radar installation, Allan McLane.
Now he's here, now he's there.
Allan McLane was everywhere, using a horse for transportation. Allan McLane.
From Marblehead Harbor the mariners came, row, men, row, to follow their captain John Glover by name. Row, men, row, to do their part at the country start, to march or saddle a horse, or raise a jib in the first amphibious force. Oh, row, men, row, steady hand as we go, heave ho. When Washington made his Long Island retreat, row, men, row, John Glover performed an impossible feat. Row, men, row, he had to ferry 9,000 men with just 9 hours until dawn. He worked all night, and by early light they were gone. Oh, row, men, go, men, pull that oar and heave ho, men. See your land, keep a steady hand as we go, heave ho. On Pelham Bay shore, Glover did it again. Row, men, row, held off an attack with a handful of men. Row, men, row, to give the army some extra time, our man delayed the pursuit. He lined up his bucks so the foe were ducks in a shoot. Oh, row, men, go, men, pull that oar and heave ho, men. See your land, keep a steady hand as we go, heave ho. The Delaware crossing that Washington made, row, men, row, succeeded because of John Glover's brigade. Row, men, row, 2,000 men and their cannon too were moved 'neath turbulent skies. From this armada the Hessians got a surprise. Surprise! Row, men, go, men, pull that oar and heave ho, men. See your land, keep a steady hand as we go. Heave ho, heave ho, heave ho, heave ho, heave ho.
He was more than a picture on a postage stamp. He was more than a face on a dollar bill. He was more than the subject of a Gilbert Stuart portrait. Not a man standing stiff, not a man standing still.
British a merry chase, New York, New Jersey, all over the place, with not enough men to fight. He had to stay in flight. Cornwallis said, we'll bag the fox, around him, hound him into a box, but that Britisher didn't know his slimy, wily foe.
He was more than a picture on a postage stamp. He was more than a face on a dollar bill. He was more than the subject of a Gilbert Stuart portrait. Not a man standing stiff, not a man standing still, but a man of action with a job that must be done. General George Washington.
He knew in order to win the race, he'd have to pick the time and the place when the odds were favoring him. But for quite a while they were dim. Retreat was like a curse. Defeat would be even worse. So he had to bide his time until his time was prime.
He was more than a picture on a postage stamp. He was more than a face on a dollar bill. He was more than the subject of a Gilbert Stuart portrait. Not a man standing stiff, not a man standing still, but a man of action with a job that must be done. General George Washington.
The spring of 1781, these were the words of Washington. Enough of turning back, it's time that we attack. At Yorktown, when it was time to meet, Cornwallis suffered complete defeat. And ever since then, we've not retreated again.
He was more than a picture on a postage stamp. He was more than a face on a dollar bill. He was more than the subject of a Gilbert Stuart portrait. Not a man standing stiff, not a man standing still, but a man of action with a war that must be won. General George Washington. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, General von Steuben was here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the army's looking fine. Up, 2, 3, 4. Up, 2, 3.
Baron Friedrich Wilhelm Ludolf Gerhard Augustin von Steuben burst on the USA one cold December day. 1777 was the year, and his services were badly needed here. Baron Friedrich Wilhelm Ludolf Gerhard Augustin von Steuben went down to Valley Forge, looked around and said, Herr George, seems to me your army is kaput. Everybody's marching on a different foot. I'd like to volunteer to put some order in your ranks, and if I'm successful, Congress can appropriate some thanks. So Friedrich Wilhelm Ludolf Gerhard Augustin von Steuben began this fearsome feat to make the army neat.
1, 2, 3, 4, General von Steuben was here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the army's looking fine, all in line, looking fine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
He picked out 100 soldiers and instructed them in person. Drilled morning, noon, and night, drilled till they did it right. When they mastered all that they were shown, they were each assigned 100 of their own. 'Cause he spoke no English, he had trouble cussin' and discussin', but he wasn't at a loss, always got his point across. Part drill master and part mother hen, and the favorite of his officers and men. His book of regulations for the order of the troops soon became a kind of Bible with the military groups. What Friedrich Wilhelm Ludolf Gerhard Augustin von Steuben declared the army goal still holds today.
Jawohl! 1, 2, 3, 4, General von Steuben was here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the army's looking fine, all in line, shoes a shine, looking fine. Up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4, up, 2, 3, 4.
Continental soldier, an ordinary guy, woke up one day and found he was the original GI. The Continental soldier had never fought before, but there was Yankee Doodle in the middle of a war.
Not enough food to feed him, not enough clothes to wear, not enough funds to pay him, not enough men who care. But enough love of freedom and enough deathless deeds and enough of the stuff that a nation needs.
Ward,
Lee,
Schuyler,
Putnam,
Montgomery,
Thomas, Gates, Heath,
Spencer,
Sullivan,
Greene, Alexander,
Lincoln,
Howe, MacDougall,
Conway. The Continental soldier, each one a volunteer, enlisted in the Continental Army for a year. The Continental soldier did not put down his gun. He went and re-enlisted till he saw the job was done. The Continental soldier, the Continental soldier.